You're listening to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast.
With electric guitars, the heavens shake through every riff our souls awake. This is rock and metal faith. The thunder roars, his name is praised. Through light and dark, his love will fade. Forever loud, rock and metal faith.
Welcome to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast, where it's all about the rock that doesn't roll. Christian rock and metal, from the classics to the new bands. I'm your host, Aaron Hancock, and this is April's bonus episode where we'll focus on a band and then we'll get into birthdays. So if you're new to the program, once a month we will do a bonus episode. We will focus on the band, and some of the bands we're going to focus on are bands we've already talked about. You can kind of go back into past episodes and find out more. We're just going to do like a brief overview. And you might wonder why we do that. Just because I see a lot of people online always asking about bands, who should I listen to, who's out there, who are good bands. So when I started this talking about bands for the bonus, I thought, well, let's cover some of the classics and then we'll get into some of the other bands. And today's classic band, we're going to talk about Rez, or Resurrection Band. They started out under the name Resurrection Band, got shortened down to Rez Band, and then finally down to Rez. They formed in about 72. Took a little while before they got a record deal. They were just kind of playing around different events, groups, churches, and all this. Got started out of what was known as the Jesus People movement and kind of took it from there. The band that is Glenn Kaiser on vocals and guitar, Wendi Kaiser on vocals, Stu Heiss on guitar and keyboards, and John Heron on drums. That was the lineup for basically the whole band's career. At the start, they had Jim Denton on bass until 1987. And then from then on to 2000, when the band disbanded, they had Roy Montroy on bass. Rez is known for blending blues rock, hard rock, and then later a little bit of arena rock, and have very strong Christian themes. They were one of the first heavy electric blues-based bands out there, often kind of compared now to like early Aerosmith or Led Zeppelin. Not that they ever sounded like Led Zeppelin, but stylistically, that's kind of where people put them. They are one of the pioneers of the Christian hard rock. Came out, like I said, alongside Petra. Also a little heavier than Petra. And were very influential in some of the bands later, come along later in the 80s. Some of the records you ought to check out would be the first one, Awaiting Your Reply, or the second one, Rainbow's End. I would check out Waves off the first record. Great song. Later on, other great records, Heaven and Hell, Silent Screams, Innocent Blood. So, yeah, great band. That's all we really need to say about them for right now. On to birthdays for the month of April. We've got a album anniversary, although I don't know the exact date. So I'll just go ahead and mention it at the top of the month here. In 2021, Reborn Again was released. We just talked about this record not that long ago. And if you don't know anything about it, Reborn Again is the album released by Michael Sweet under his own name, his solo band, and is the record, same record as Striper's Reborn, just redone. Reborn, it came out, was meant to be a solo record for Michael Sweet. The band was in the process of getting back together and reforming after a bit of a hiatus, and convinced Michael that they should use those sounds for the next Striper record. The record never really came out the way Michael wanted. And in 2021, this is almost 20 years later, about 18 years later, Michael decides to redo the record the way he had originally envisioned it. A few more guitar layers, a few more solos. And so, yeah, Reborn has come out in April. If you can get a hold of it, definitely worth checking out. April 3rd, we have a birthday for Steve Osborne, who was the guitar for Bride during their classic years with Snakes in the Playground and I believe on Scarecrow. We have Ben Millhouse, who is the drummer for Deceiver Down. He also played with Wolves at the Gate. And I should mention too, Steve Osborne was born in 1966. I don't have a year for Ben Millhouse. All right, April 6th, we have Jan Tupi, who plays keyboard for Signum Regis. They're a power metal band out of Europe. I want to say Germany or Sweden. I'm not really sure exactly where they're from. I just know they're from Europe somewhere. Great band. I would check out the album Undivided. April 7th, we have a couple birthdays, a couple great vocalists actually. Jamie Rowe of Guardian, born 1970. And John Cooper of Skillet, born 1975. Also, April 7th, Michael Sweet released his first solo record in 1994. This was originally just a self-titled one under the name Michael Sweet. Later, it's been kind of re-released, renamed with the year it came out, 1994. April 8th, we have a legendary birthday from the legendary artist Larry Norman, born in 1947. I would check out one of my favorite songs from him if you have not heard, called Why Should the Devil Have All the Good Music? And also April 8th, we have birthday, from Rez Band, Wendi Kaiser, born 1953. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, she was one of the vocalists with Rez. Actually, that brings up a little story. I was going to talk about Rez too. Did some research into Rez because for those of you who have a live record called 20 Years Live, on there she tells a story about when her husband, or to be, Glenn Kaiser, first has the idea of forming this rock band and singing about God and Jesus and how they're going to get a lot of flack for it. She calls him Timothy, and it always kind of threw me off why she called him Timothy. So I did a little research into that, and turns out what she was doing was comparing him to Timothy of the Bible, who had a vision for ministry. They were young at the time, like Timothy was young at the time, and basically comparing the ministry that Rez was going to do to the same kind of ministry that Timothy in the Bible, in the New Testament, has done. So for those wondering all about that, I have did a little research and figured out the answer to that question. And moving on now, April 10th, we have Rick Florian, who did vocals for Whiteheart, born in 1962. April 13th, we have Terry Russell, who is a drummer for Holy Soldier. And I believe he's also playing out with Worldview. He's playing with one of these other bands. I think Worldview and possibly Human Code. I know there's a couple of super groups out there who are essentially the same band, just a different vocalist and doing different sounds. And I believe Terry is part of those bands. April 15th, we have Patrick Judge, who is the guitarist for Demon Hunter. He was born 1987. And we have Ben Kasica, who is a former guitarist for Skillet. Played with him from 2001 to 2011. Ben Kasica was born 1984. April 16th, we have Klaus Anderhill, who did drums for Jerusalem, born 1961. Jerusalem is one of these Swedish bands in the, I believe, early 80s, playing the Christian rock, metal, making a little bit of waves over here. April 17th, we have Noah Henson, who is a former guitarist for the band Pillar. April 28th, another album release from Striper. That was in April 20th in 2018 was when Goddamn Evil came out. Great album from a great band. April 22nd, we have another birthday from the band Jerusalem. Dan Gansmore, who played drums with them. April 27th, we have Bjorn Stigson, who played guitar with Leviticus, born in 1951. Great band. Again, another, I believe they were a Swedish band. Made a little bit of inroads over here, getting a few fans over here in North America. April 28th, Lester Estelle, who is the drummer for Pillar, born in 1981. And April 29th, we have George Ochoa, who's the guitarist. Started out with Deliverance. He's played with Vengeance, did a short time with Mortification, and now with the band Worldview. Worldview is a great band too. Again, like I said earlier, one of these super groups. I believe they got Terry Russell. I can't remember everybody who's in Worldview right now, but a great band worth checking out. And I believe George said that he's working on new Deliverance material, so we have that to look forward to later this year. George Ochoa was born in 1962. All right, that is about it for our birthdays. Quick little rundown on Rez. And we'll see y'all next time. And catch y'all next time. Remember to like, subscribe, and let all your friends know about the Rock and Metal Faith podcast. God bless and keep rocking.